it's Andy and today I'm bringing you my April wrap up. In the month of April I managed to read 15 books, which is pretty good going. I did DNF 3 and as always I'll go over them first with you. But 15 books, 15 books, that's a lot. Like, I don't know what's happening this year, but I am just absolutely smashing out of the park. Watch me jinx myself for me. But yeah, 15 books, that is a lot. And I'm very, very happy with that. And this month, again, has been a really good month for books. So yeah, this is going to be a good one. So first, I'll go over the books that I DNF'd. So the first one that I DNF'd, unfortunately, was The Principle of Moments by Esme Jakemi Pearson. I was really looking forward to this book. It sounded like the kind of sci-fi that I would enjoy. But unfortunately, I just didn't click with the writing style. I couldn't get on board. That's been my problem a lot with my DNFs, is the writing style. Like, I just can't, like, I find myself not being able to focus on it, or I just don't care about the characters, depending on how far I get into it. And this one, it's young adult, and I'm really iffy with young adult books anyway nowadays. And it was like getting too sci-fi in the way I'm not big on sci-fi. I don't know how to explain it, but I just wasn't finding myself wanting to pick this up after I started reading it. Like, I'd put it down because I was just getting bored with it, and then I would pick it back up and I didn't want to pick it back up. And I don't think it's anything wrong with the book. I think it's just not my kind of sci-fi. Which is ironic because it sounds like it should be, because it's a split timeline. We've got 60, 66 and 1812. And it's about time travellers and somebody who's got something called temporal sickness. And it's funny because it kind of made me think of, maybe just because it's the British Museum, of the Kane Chronicles. And like from the synopsis, but in reading it I just wasn't finding myself, I wasn't finding myself liking the writing style. So unfortunately I DNF'd this, but this will go to a better home and to someone who will appreciate the work. And then I ended up DNFing One Moonlit Night, which I keep calling One Moonless Night. If you've heard me say One Moonless Night, this is the book. This is very different. Moonless, moonlit, it's very different. But yeah, this is the one I DNF'd. I actually DNF'd last month and month before another book, The Country of Others. This is basically a very similar story, or it feels like and started off like a very similar story. So this is about a woman who married someone during the war and then went to live with his family, and it's all just, yeah. I should have known when I read that it was like a mystery that will change all their life. I don't care. I don't care. This is why I don't read thrillers or mysteries. In this sense, I don't care. It also starts off with her daughters having a really cryptic chat in a cafe. I just couldn't. The thing is, I love another one of this author's books, but I'm finding that with some authors, like, as you can see, with some authors, when I love their work, I love their work. But some authors, obviously, that's not the case, unfortunately. And unfortunately, the last book I DNF'd was Music in the Dark by Sally Magnuson. This hurt me to DNF, I'm not going to lie. This is a Scottish book by a Scottish author about the Scottish Highland clearances and the effect that it had on families. And yeah, it pains me because this is something, again, that should be right up my alley. But unfortunately, I just did not like the writing style. Again, the storytelling factor of it is not my style. This, I literally, at one point, there was a chapter, or like, the chapter split timeline, so it kept like going back to memories and then back to the now, which again, I normally like. But I don't need a chapter about someone trying to copy fuel. That is literally, like, the whole chapter was about the fact that he had his hand on her boob. The entire, I don't care. I'm not. It's so, I kind of wish, like, some of me wanted to push through it, but honestly, if I heard one more time from either perspective about him touching her boob, 13th reason, honestly. So yeah, unfortunately, again, this will go to someone, hopefully, who will like it, but it just wasn't for me. And now into the books that I did finish, all 15 of them, and honestly, I had such a good month. I had such a good month. The first book I finished in April was Fall With Me by Becca Mack. This is book 4 in the Playing for Keeps series. So I read books 1 to 3, I think, fairly quickly. I think in the last wrap up I had like 2 of them and said I was reading this one. This one follows Jackson, and it's kind of pulling for my favourite along with the third one. And Jackson is one of the hockey players, obviously. He is new to the team. He is being getting bounced around other teams because of his personality, shall I say. He is a kind of controversial guy, controversial figure in the hockey world. He is an enforcer and he gets into loads of fights and he's constantly causing issues, and so teams just don't want to keep him on, and so they punt him to other teams and he just docks around. He's never had anywhere that's really been home. This, of course, is changed when he comes to this team, the Vipers, and they decide that you are part of our family. And this is really about him discovering what it's like to have a home and have a family, and obviously fall in love, because it is a romance. This actually reminds me a little bit of Pucking Around, because Lennox, who is the female main character, she meets him before she starts working with the team. So she is on her honeymoon, sans husband, because don't even start me on him. Yeah, she just went on her honeymoon, kind of like the episode of Friends where Rachel goes on the honeymoon with Ross, but Ross doesn't actually go, and they're not actually married. So yeah, she dumped her fiance and went on the honeymoon on her own, and the villain next door is Jackson and his current date, who are bickering and fighting and blown up like nothing else, and Lennox is sick of hearing it, and so she confronts him, and they end up having this antagonistic kind of time when they're there. I think it's only a couple of days, and then yeah, when she gets home, starts a new job, who's there with Jackson, and he's not been able to stop thinking about her, which is unusual for him, and things go from there. I love this series, I really, really do. The first one, like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of the male main character from the first one, but his progress through, like, by this book, I loved him. I was totally on his side, like on his team, but in the first book, not a fan. Next, I read Half-Arsed Human by Lena Norms. This is a kind of self-help book. It is about how to half-arse things. So it is about living your life, going through things like your goals, your career, things like that, in a way that's not going to burn you out. So it's about doing things with moderation. I don't know why I'm finding it hard to describe, but like, it just makes so much sense to me, Half-Arsed Human. Like, Lena talks about this a lot on her channel, like this half-arsed nature. She does this thing called half-arsed veganuary, where like veganuary is, or half-ass vegan, I can't say half-arse for some reason. Being a half-arsed vegan is like, being a half-arsed vegan is a way to be kind of better than just doing veganuary. So like, if you want to make an impact and make a difference by being vegan, but you're in a position, for example, like me, where you can't be vegan because of dietary issues, because of issues with health, etc, etc, then it's better to be a half-arsed vegan than go balls to the wall in January and just completely fall off the wagon and eat a whole cow. Like, you know what I mean? So half-arse veganism is like, you pick, there's different ways to do it. So you can pick like a meal. So like, say for 1 month or a week, all your lunches have to be vegan, or your breakfast has to be vegan, or your snacks have to be vegan. And like, when you go out to eat, like maybe when you're in a restaurant, you pick the vegan option. Like, there are different ways that she describes to do that, and that's just one of the parts of this. This book was amazing. I loved this. I loved listening to the audiobook. It's so funny, I opened it up with the Half-Arsed Vegan page. This is such a good, fun book, and it really made me think about how I do things, and I've implemented some of these changes in my life, or I'm starting to, and it has really helped me. I love Lena, I love her videos, I love this book, honestly. I definitely think this is worth it, especially for somebody, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you just feel like you're struggling. This book, I really believe will help. Then I continued my reread of the Southern Vampire Mysteries, aka the Sookie Stackhouse books, aka the True Blood books, and the second one is Living Dead in Dallas. I loved saying it last month, can't say it this month, and this is just a continuation, as you can imagine, of the first book. So Sookie Stackhouse is a waitress, but she's also a telepath, and because of that she kind of has to avoid being around other people because she's constantly getting bombarded with their thoughts, and people also think she's kind of weird. But when vampires come out of the coffin, that's the word, when vampires come out of the coffin, Sookie discovers that she can't read the minds of vampires. They are completely silent. They are an oasis. They are calm in the storm. And so she ends up embroiled in vampire politics. She is involved in a relationship with her next door neighbour who's a vampire. And yeah, it's just well, I was going to say silly, funny, goofy, good, fun time. But it's also like insanely dark because these books are brutal. Like the vampires are brutal. And this introduces us to the Weir community and the Shifter community of the world, and they do not want to be known, so it's an interesting dynamic. And then I read one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I finally have my physical copy as well, which is great, and I really want to reread it and maybe tab it because I love this book so much, and that is For Whom the Bell Tolled by J.C. Lynn. Even because I pre-ordered it, I got a pre-order pin, so it says "Welcome to the help desk." I'm so excited. You have no idea how excited I was when I read this book. I cried so much. So So this is the brainchild of J.C. Lynn, who is See You Later, S-E-A, You Later, on TikTok, and I think on YouTube as well. And during lockdown, she started this series called Hell's Bells. And Hell's Bells is about Lily, and Lily died and went through, discovered there's an afterlife, went through judgment, and ended up in paradise. But she kind of got bored, and so she decided to go down to hell and start a help desk. And the help desk is not really to help the souls. Yeah, they do help souls, but it's mainly to help the front desk with souls who are being, arseholes. Imagine a customer service desk in hell, but you get to talk back. I love Hell's Bells so much. You meet other characters, so there are other people who work on this help desk. You get to meet some demons, characters, some gods. If you watch Death and Martha, that crosses over with it once or twice. And it really is just like a comfort thing. I love watching it every day when it's released. I love going back to the start and watching it all through again. And this is the kind of start of Hell's Bells. So Hell's Bells itself is established fairly decently into this, like the actual start of the skit series she did is like somewhere in the back of this book. But this starts off before Lily dies. So it starts off when Lily is diagnosed with cancer. And she knows, she says, the first line is that she knew she was going to die when her car wouldn't start. Lily knew the cancer was going to kill her when her car wouldn't start. That is literally the first line. And it sort of quickly documents her last days, and then her trip into the afterlife, through judgment, and her paradise, her, I was going to say descent into hell, but she literally goes down to see what it's all about. Her meeting her partner, and meeting other people who are relevant through Hell's Bells, getting to know Lucifer and Leviathan and other characters you can imagine that are present in hell and in the afterlife. Honestly, this book, what's this here doing? This book, oh my god. See when you know all the, see when you've gone through the lore of Hell's Bells and then you read this book. I definitely recommend, there's 600-ish parts of Hell's Bells on a playlist. Some are missing because TikTok took them down. I think they're also on YouTube. But having all that information and then reading this was like a gut punch. I love this book so much. Like I say, I can't wait to reread this. Oh, and also, look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love the arcs. The arcs looked so cool. They were basically this cover, but obviously without the writing on it. And the front said they told her to go to hell, and then the back says, so she went on her own terms. But like, imagine a help desk in hell, like a customer service desk, where you get to talk back. Like, that is such a great concept. This book, however, is a bit darker, is a bit more on the content warning-y side. There is discussion of abuse, of death, obviously, cancer. There is a war-ish happening. So there's PTSD to deal with. There is a war in hell, by the way. PTSD to deal with and other mental health things. There is loss of pregnancy, traumatic birth. Like, there's so much in this that will absolutely like tear your heart out, but it's just so raw and so real, and I love it, and I cannot wait. I saw the end coming. Like, I got to a certain point and I was like, you wouldn't dare. Don't you dare. No, she's not going to tell me she's not going to, and she did. The end of the book was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and oh my god, even when I think about it now, I want to cry. Like, the end of the book just wrecked me. And I cannot wait for book 2. Next, I read another non-fiction, and that was The Painful Truth by Monty Lyman. I thought this book was going to be a totally different thing. I thought it was going to be about drug use and like statistics and the opioid crisis, etc, etc, like things like that when it came to medicines, because like, look at the cover. However, this is a doctor who is a specialist in pain, and I don't know if he's a specialist in pain, but like he studies pain a lot, and he looks at the physical side of pain, the neurological side of pain, the emotional, mental side of pain, like all the facets that make up why do we feel pain, how do we feel pain, and what causes pain specifically to become a problem. Because pain is there as your body's early warning system. It is your body telling you something is wrong, we need to get away from this. So think about if you touch something hot, it is painful, you move your hand away from the heat source. Normally, like if you get an injury, your body is in pain and it helps, like it tells you need to rest it, you get inflammation to help with healing, etc, etc. But then you've got people like me who have chronic pain conditions, and for the most part, so for example in fibromyalgia, it is believed that your body's neurological pathway system is just going into overdrive. It's like pain, we like warning, and you're like, take it down a notch, you need to just, there's nothing happening, you're all good. And so he talks about ways where like he goes into the science of it, and then talks about ways that some people are looking into how to dial that down. Literally sometimes where you can imagine like a dial for your pain, and literally like go through the motions of dialing it down. And it helps like so much. Like, this is going to sound bad. So much of our pain is in our heads. And he deals with this in such a way that doesn't make you feel crazy. Like, literally ask someone who's broken a bone when they felt the pain, and 9 times out of 10 they will say when they looked at it. Not that there was no pain, like not that a broken bone doesn't hurt, but it's your nervous system and your brain reacting to it that brings on that pain, basically. And there's a lot of evidence, a lot of research being done into ways to mentally tone down your pain. Even like, it sounds stupid, but the whole mind over matter thing, like people who have things like chronic pain will know if you dissociate, your pain will reduce. If you, like, even placebos, like you can give someone a pill and say, this is a placebo, it will take your pain away. It will actually reduce their pain. Like, it is mental how much your brain can control. Because if you think about it, pain is an impulse that goes through your neurological system. Your brain is in charge of your neurological system. So your brain can turn it off. Like, not always, like obviously there's a whole difference between overfiring and, you know, bone sticking out your leg. And I don't think I'm doing this justice. He really, really does it in a fantastic way, where he's looking at empirical data, he's looking at like studies, and he wants to find a way to consistently be able to reduce and affect people's pain so that it's not like mentally or physically destroying them. Like I said, I have a chronic pain condition. My problem is my pain is, I call it acute pain chronically. because it's not chronic pain in the sense of like it is just pain for the sake of pain. My body is constantly having injuries, so like if you were to dislocate your knee, dislocate a joint, that hurts, it's painful, it gets inflamed. But once you put it back, that is fine, like it goes back to normal eventually. With me, my joints are constantly clicking out of joint, like clicking out of place, and so I'm constantly causing acute injuries over a long period of time. So I've got an acute pain chronically, is how I say it. So yeah, like again, he is well and truly upfront with the fact that not every method will help every person, and there's obviously other things we need to look at. He wants to look at, he's fascinated as well by other methods, which are non-addictive drugs and other things that we can look into without to help with pain. So opioids are a big thing right now because opioids are very addictive and they don't really actually work that well. Like people have this inflated idea of how much painkillers actually help, and in reality they don't actually help that much. And so he's really pushing to try and find more effective ways to help people who have pain, and other ways as well to do other things to help lower risk. So a lot of painkillers and pain drugs have a lot of high risk, like gabapentin, I think was the one he mentioned, where there's a lot of risk for not a lot of reward sometimes. Things like anaesthetic. So general anaesthetic, fairly unknown, and we don't know how necessarily dangerous it is. If we can avoid it, using it, that would be amazing. Anyway, yeah, this was really interesting. I actually really liked it, and it was nice to see a doctor basically validate pain and say we need to do better with pain. I was in a roll this month with non-fictions apparently, because then I read Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I listened to the audiobook of this, and I don't know if anybody's interested, but I got a green signature. He was changing every 100,000? 10,000? Maybe not 100,000. I think he was changing pen colours every 10,000. So I think this is I can't even remember. But I got a green. This book is basically a non-fiction about tuberculosis, but not even. I struggle to put it together. So this follows Henry, who, if you've been watching John Green for a while, you'll know who Henry is. Not his son Henry, this boy who he met when he was in, I think, Sierra Leone, called Henry, and he thought Henry was about ages with his son, who was about 7 at the time, but it turns out Henry had tuberculosis, and that caused him to look much younger than he was. He had multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, and he was really unwell, but he was this happy, chatty, friendly boy that everybody in the hospital loved, but the doctors knew that without the medication he needed, he was not going to be able to live, basically. And so we follow Henry in this journey of his life, from John meeting him, going back to his diagnosis, his illness, his family life, and through that lens, John takes us on a journey to talk about tuberculosis and how it is not a disease of, I can't remember what he says about it, but it's not a disease that's spread, it's not a disease that's caused by the disease. It is a disease that is caused by the inequalities and injustices of this world. If you look at the rates for tuberculosis, you will find it is mostly in developing countries, and these countries have no access to, or very little access to, antibiotics, to early testing, to doctors, to like food, like things that you desperately need if you want to get better. Like one of the drugs in here makes you unbelievably, like one of the drugs for tuberculosis makes you unbelievably hungry, and you can imagine if you don't have food, like you're not going to want to be taking this tablet that's going to make you feel unbelievably hungry, especially if you're in a country already where food is not easily available. Like this shows the disparities of tuberculosis in a way that even with what I thought I had as knowledge of tuberculosis totally blew me out of the water. I actually have, I will show you, on my arm here, there is a mark here. You see this mark here, the scar? That was a BCG. which is a vaccine for tuberculosis. At the time I got my injection, I got my vaccines, my year at high school was the last year that was getting them, so anybody younger than me at my school didn't get them, and I think my school was one of the last ones to taper it off. So there are people that were in my year at school who went to different schools who have not had the TB jag, and that is like, to have that vaccine, to have access to vaccines for no cost, for like with no issues. They came to my school, they gave us the vaccine, the aftercare was all done. That is such a privilege. I don't need to worry. Like, I have never gone a day thinking, oh my god, will I end up with getting TB. TB was effectively eradicated in the UK. And it is coming back, there are more cases now, but there are places where that is not the case. Places like Sierra Leone where they don't even have access to tests to discover if you have TB, what kind of TB you have, what drugs you need for the TB, because there are different kinds of TB and some of them are multi-drug resistant, which, by the way, the multi-drug resistance is being caused by people not having access to what they need, because it is a bacteria. And if you, so someone is living in somewhere in remote Sierra Leone, they have to travel sometimes 4 hours plus to get to the clinic that has the antibiotics. They can't stay at the clinic because they don't have the facilities for that. So every time they need more medication, they have to go on this journey when you're already sick, you're already lacking in resources, and you may need to stay at home to work. Are you going to continuously be able to do that? No, you're not. Like I said, when I got my TB jag, they came to my school. If I contracted TB right now, I would go to the hospital. I would stay in the hospital and they would treat that TB. People like Henry don't have that option. And it is very, very obvious, based on who gets TB, where TB happens, the kind of places that testing, etc. is and it's not available, that a lot of it is down to colonialism, to racism, and to other factors where the rich value themselves over everybody else. And I'm including, like, the rich includes my country. Like, the UK is a rich country in this scenario. We have looked after our own people, but are not helping to look after people in other countries where they need it the most. John Green also, I was a part of this, just the teeniest little part, but every person counts, basically bullied Danaher, I think it's Danaher, into lowering the price for the testing, because they had an inflation on their testing kits, or the machines to do the tests were fairly inexpensive, but the tests themselves were so inflated in price that it was near impossible for places to get the test they needed. And John Green launched an online campaign where basically we just constantly tweeted them. Constantly. People wrote to them, people called them, people emailed them, people constantly tweeted them. Like, every single day I would go into my Twitter, which I don't use anymore, and I would at Danaher. I would just be like, hey, have you lowered the price yet? Have you lowered the price yet? How about lowering the prices? Whenever they post something, we would all reply, mentioning the tests, and eventually they caved and they have lowered the price of the tests, because they were making, I think it was something ridiculous, like a 400% markup, which is disgusting. Like, if you mark up medication or medical related things, that is disgusting. Like, fair enough to at cost or make a little bit of profit, but to make a 400% markup, I don't know if that's the right number, but it was something ridiculous like that. That is beyond, like, that. This is what I mean about the rich looking after themselves, because my country could afford it, no problem, but places like Sierra Leone, they can't. Anyway, yeah, I love this. This is amazing. John Green reads the book himself. The book made me cry, like the audiobook, and I highly recommend everybody read this. I'm also going to tag Steff down below, who used this or had this as her book club book, and has a video on it. I will tag Steff and I will put the video down below for you to watch her thoughts on the book. Next, I read Chase Me because I needed something a little bit lighter after the heaviness that kind of, you can see the last few books were a bit heavy, so I needed something fun and quick and just, yeah. Chase Me is the first in the Broken Beautiful series by Tessa Bailey. It's a trilogy, and this, this is one of her ones where I didn't take it all in, like I didn't remember it all. So this follows Roxy, and she is a singing telegram. Now, she is struggling to make it as an actress, and so she's doing this job to kind of make money and support herself while she is looking for work. And she goes to this guy's house, his apartment in New York, and as a singing telegram to sing a song from his last one night stand about his penis. I'm not even joking. And then eventually she ends up moving in with these two other girls, who I'm assuming are going to be the two other books. And I can't even really remember. I do remember, like, he ends up trying to find her because he, like, love at first sight, falls for her. And they have this kind of tumultuous relationship, like getting to know each other type thing. They're both kind of lying to each other. It was a whole thing. Is it Tessa Bailey's best? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it? Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Next I read Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is so shiny. I'm actually borrowing these from Vicky, and I do have the rest of them somewhere because after reading this I do want to continue on. So Annihilation is a sci-fi horror. I don't know if it's technically horror. It is this. How do you describe Jeff Vandermeer? Truly. So this is about an area called Area X, and it's been cordoned off by the government, and nobody can go into Area X. But there have been expeditions of scientists that have been sent in to find out more about Area X, and in Area X, there are things there that are weird, like weird animals, weird plants, this weird sound, this weird tower, and like it's just weird. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Wilder Girls by Rory Power, in the sense that like everything's kind of affected by whatever's going on, but we don't know what's going on, hence the expeditions. And this follows one of the expeditions, and one of the scientists on the expeditions, we don't learn anybody's names. They are known as the biologist, the chemist, the whatever they're called. And this follows the biologist, and she goes in, like they are put into a trance to go into Area X, so they have no idea how to get into or out of Area X, but once they're there, they have to kind of do some research and find out what the hell's going on. But like I said, there's this tower there, and it is so drawn and enigmatic that it does weird things to them. This book, I have read something similar, but I can't remember what it is. I know I've read something similar, probably something that Vicky has given to me. Maybe The Last Astronaut with like their... No, because that's not quite it. Anyway, this book is so weird and so, like, you don't get answers. It's just so bizarre. I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so excited to read the next one. I'm aware... Oh, The Girl with All the Gifts. It reminds me of The Girl with All the Gifts as well. It's just so unusual and so weird and so, like, twisty and, like... Yeah, I don't even know. You don't get answers, so I can't help you. And then I read another one of my anticipated reads, which I don't have the physical copy for yet because it's not out yet, and that is the last in the Tomes and Tea series, and that is Alchemy and a Cup of Tea. Now, here are books 1, 2 and 3. Book 4 is the last book, and I'm so sad. I'm loving following Chianti and Raina, and I'm so sad to see them go. This follows Raina and Chianti. Chianti is the Mage of Ages, the Arkandor, is how I've been saying it, Arkandor, and Raina is a Queensguard. So this is a world where, or an area, I feel weird saying world because they're all like within days' rides of each other, but you know how fantasy worlds have like the one continent basically. So there's the Queendom, there is an area that is Dragonland, there is the area that the Mage of Ages kind of, not rules over, but the mages kind of look after, and other areas, so there's different countries. And the Mage of Ages is the most powerful mage. The Stone of Seeing, which is this meteor, I suppose, gives the mages their power, their elemental power, and it also chooses one person to be its representative, and that is the Mage of Ages, and it gives them intense power, like the most power of all the mages, and that is Chianti. Thing is, Chianti is a sarcastic, dad-joking, pun-slinging person that does not take anything seriously. And then she goes to visit the Queen, don't even start with the Queen. The Queen is a horrible, horrible person. And she has a Queen's Guard who are there to basically protect her, as you can imagine a Queen's Guard would. And one of the Queen's Guard is Raina. And Raina and Chianti fall in love with each other kind of at a distance. And they decide to run away together. So Chianthe has been asking Renya for years to run away with her and open a books and coffee store, a book and tea store, because Renya likes making tea, Chianthe loves books, and every time Renya says, no, I can't go, I need to be loyal to the Queen. And then something happens that just breaks that last vestige of her loyalty to the Queen, and she asks Chianthe to ask her again, and they run away to open this shop, which is a bookshop and also a tea shop. And it just follows them after that. So there are a bit higher stakes than in other cozy fantasy that you may know, but it's also just home, it's family, it's about creating your own family, and it's about being loved for who you are, not what you are. Like, I love these two. Like, the puns are funny, the jokes are funny, the characters are so lovable, there's dragons. It's just amazing. Like, honestly, if you like things like Legends and Lattes or Becky Chambers, I know that sounds counterproductive because Becky Chambers is sci-fi, but it's that found family feeling that you get from these books. I thoroughly urge you to read them, and you will it'll be page turning and you will want to continue reading and reading and reading. And yeah, I've not met anybody who has read these books and doesn't love them. I was actually emailed by the publisher to offer me the ARC, which was amazing because I got the ARC of 2 and 3, I think, and obviously left 5-star reviews because this is my favourite series of all time. And yeah, so I got an email asking if I would like the ARC, and of course I said yes. So it doesn't come out until August, I want to say, but you know, you have 3 books to read by then, so get started. And another non-fiction. This seems to be a big non-fiction month for me. So I read Forces of Nature by Brian Cox and Andrew Cohen. This is oh my god, this book, I hate physics. I hate physics. All this book did was remind me that I hate physics. This book broke my brain. So this is literally a non-fiction book about physics and about how physics and chemistry and all that kind of dictate the entire world. It's, you know, you talk about what the sun is made of, what, like, rocks and space and just like electrons and physics, just so much physics. The physics of the tides, the physics of how a snowflake is formed, the physics of neutrinos and like, I understand some of it. Like, I had to learn about spin and about phosphorescence and about like other things like that for my uni course, because we had to understand what the machines we were using do. And so some of it I understood and some of it just went right over my head. And don't even start me about conceptualising physics. I cannot conceptualise physics. The whole photon wave particle thing, just no, my brain can't visualise it. And here we are talking things on the scale of like microns and smaller. But if you like physics, I think you really like this. Next, I read The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. This book was really interesting, and I kind of wish it was actually longer. So this follows our main character, I want to say Cherry. Yes, Cherry. And Cherry works at this private school, and one day a prince comes to the school because he wants to open up a scholarship for kids who have like good grades but they maybe can't necessarily afford a scholarship, and he wants to open up a scholarship, can't afford the school, so he wants to give them a scholarship so they can attend the school to better their lives. And they have an encounter and it leads to them being photographed by the paparazzi, and to stop the paparazzi from publishing the photos, he tells them that they are engaged because the paparazzi have a deal with the royal family that they can't publish anything about them without their consent. So to stop Cherry from being sort of blasted all over the press, he tells them we're engaged, and so then they have to pretend to be engaged. He says this in his language, I can't remember what language he speaks, but he says it in a different language, so Cherry doesn't know that's what's happened. And then he explains to her and she's like, you are crazy. And he creates this contract of like, we'll pretend to be engaged for a year, I will pay you like to save my ass, basically. And Cherry needs the money. Her sister has sickle cell anemia, and she lives in America and is going to Harvard. Like, they need the money for her sister. So she agrees to this, and she goes back to him to this country. I think it's Danish he speaks. I think it's like a little made up country next to Denmark, I want to say. And he has a lot of family issues. Like his brother and his sister, the king and his sister, are incredibly abusive and horrible, and just like there's a whole thing. This book literally could have been 100 pages more. 200 pages more, easy, because it's less than 200 pages. It's less than 200 pages, sorry. This could have been easily 150, 200 pages longer. Dig into it a little bit and it would have been amazing. It's kind of reminiscent of American Royals, reminiscent of, by the sounds of it, Twisted Games. I watched someone review, like spoiler review Twisted Games the other day, and it kind of reminded me of that. This is an indie published book, so it's not gone through an editor, it's not gone through other people, so I think the lack of feedback is probably what made it. It wasn't bad. Again, I feel like I'm being negative. I'm not being negative. I really liked it. I just would love more. Like, I would be, if I was given notes as an editor, I'd be like, give me more, give me background, give me why, like, expand this scene, basically, like, expand, because I could have lived with these characters for another 200 pages easy and not gotten bored. And then I finished the Chronicles of Ixia read-along, and that finished with Fire Study, The Study of Fire. Fire Study is the first trilogy. This is the first trilogy from Valak's point of view, so The Study of Fire follows Valak through the third book of the first one. Again, there's no point in me telling you what this is because it is spoilery, but do I need to do it again? I'm not going to tell you about this. I've talked about this series for over a year now, so I don't think I need to give you the rundown on it. Just know that this was my favourite. I loved it, and I love Valak as a male main character. He's fantastic. I love being in his head, and I'm so sad that it's over. And next I read Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. This is her newest novel, and this follows this book gave me issues. So this follows our two main characters who have a one-night stand on a houseboat, and through the night it unmoors and they end up in the middle of the North Sea. And they have to obviously survive because obviously their phones aren't working because it's the middle of the North Sea. There's a movie with Shailene Woodley and Sam Claflin where they are a couple and they agree to sail someone's boat from one place to another, and they get caught in a storm, and it's like a psychological horror, I swear to God. And that's what this reminded me of. Like, that's why I was so reluctant to read it, because I was like, that damaged me. But this is a romance, so this is more about them getting to know each other, getting to know themselves. There's a section here that reminded me of The Wall. Like, this is a little bit more serious of a backdrop for a romance, but I actually ended up really, really enjoying it. There was a point where I saw something coming a mile away and I was like, please don't do it. Prove me wrong. She did not prove me wrong, and that's the only thing that knocked it down a star, because I did not like something that happened in this book. Next, I read The Boyfriend Subscription by Stephen Salvatore. This is my 12 and 12 pick from Bobby, and I don't know what it was about this, but I was scared to read it when it came up, but I actually ended up really loving it. So one of our characters, he's just gone through a horrible breakup, and his ex-fiance, I want to say, or ex-husband, sorry. His ex-husband basically ruined his life, and I mean like wiped out his business, made him homeless, like completely ruined his life. And so he has no money, and this guy needs somebody to make him look better for an investor, and so they enter into an investor? I don't even remember, or a client of some kind. And so they enter into a fake dating scenario so that he looks better. He is a sex worker. He owns a company called Versatile, and it is a business model basically for sex workers to, OnlyFans is referenced in this, but it's kind of like that, but specifically for, you can like link up with people like Tinder as well. And he is trying to get an investor on board, like I say, and he needs to project a better image because the investor or the partner is from a clothing brand, and he wants to work with them because they are queer forward, they are sex positive, and so is he. This reminded me a lot of Boyfriend material, but only in the sense of like the tropes. The characters are very distinct, the situations are very like prominent, and for being such a short book, this covers a lot. He does not mince his words in this. He gets to the point, and it is so cool. Like, I love this book. There are so many books that I've read recently that have different tropes. Like the roommate in this reminded me so much of the roommate from, oh, what's it called? It's the one about the stars. The first one, the Alexander Bellflower book. Anyway, yeah, I love the characters. I love the story. I cannot wait to read something else from this author. And lastly, I read Scotch on the Rocks by Elliot Fletcher, and this again was an arc I got from NetGalley. This is the second in the McCabe brothers books, the first one being Whiskey Business, and this is about our two main characters who are from Skye and live on Skye, and our female main character, she was engaged to the main character's brother, and they broke up, and then her and the main character had an almost one night stand, and then now she hates him. She hates all of them, except the sister, because they're best friends, and yet he still wants to be with her, but she is trying to run this hotel. It was her dad's. Her dad died, and her mum is really stressing about it, so she sends her mum off on a holiday, and she decides she's going to renovate 2 rooms. Things go immediately wrong, and here's Callum. I should say it's Juniper and Callum, and here's Callum to save the day, just like he always does, because he is community Ken, and he is unbelievably, disgustingly nice to everybody, and she hates that about him, especially since she is the black cat of black cats. She actually has a black cat who's horrible, but yeah, he is also a vet. Like, he is like nice guy TM, like good guy TM, and she hates him for it, but she is attracted to him, and they also have to navigate the whole thing of the fact that, you know, she is his brother's ex-fiance. It's a whole thing. I loved it. I'm so excited for book 3 because I think that'll follow Alistair, who is her ex, and he comes back, and it's interesting. There we are. Those are the books I read in the month of April. If you've read any of those and you want to chat about them, please do so down below. If you want to leave me an emoji, leave some kind of Scotch emoji for Scotch on the Rocks, or anything you relate to with Scotch on the Rocks, ice, maybe, glass, in the comments. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.